Hey guys, so been a little while here, but today we are going to pick back up in this series on learning programming. And what we're going to do now is talk about the best way to kind of see where we are progress-wise so that we can decide whether or not we're ready to move on to some of the more advanced topics that we'd mentioned before. So, coding-wise, we talked about Lambda functions, generics, and then object-oriented programming, which has, many aspects to it, database, and then web apps more specifically. So controllers, routing, how that interact with the database, all that stuff. Some more advanced programming topics, and then some of the other various things that go into programming in a real world environment, like version control. We said version control is important, agile software development sort of things. Actually getting things downloaded locally, setting up a project, pushing to version control, things like that. But before we got into all of that, we were just going to make sure that we had kind of the basics under our belt. And so I think what we're going to do today, we won't have super long here today since I'll have to leave in not so long, but we'll come up with a list of topics that we want to do for our quote unquote test problems, if you will. And then tomorrow, when we have a little bit more time, we'll go through, we'll pick one, and then, on the call there, I'll let you work through the problem and we'll see how fast you are. And it's not that speed is everything in programming, because you also want to have readable code and, document your code and make sure that you're naming your variables good things so that it'll be easy to understand later. And so what we'll call like code cleanliness, like basically how good the code is as well, that matters as well. So speed is not absolutely everything, but it's a reasonably good, what's the right word? Like not metric, but it kind of maps onto like basically how well you understand things pretty well. So it's like a good proxy. That's the word I was looking for. It's a good proxy for kind of where your programming ability is at any given point in time. This trails off eventually. Once you understand stuff perfectly well, then you're not going to get any faster, really. You can still practice some, but by and large, up until that point, things that will take people just getting their feet wet in programming, things that will take them a long time, will take experienced programmers almost no time at all. So it's a reasonably good way to track where you are. So all that preamble out of the way. Something I thought we could do again. So we have something that was reading the lines from a file, right? Well, how about one idea for something that we do is that, so we combine, I should put all of this in comment here. So these are our ideas here for testing out some of the things that we've learned here. So we combine communicating with the user in the command line. So if you remember, that was one of the big examples we did, right? Where we were adding or subtracting numbers on the command line. So we could combine that with reading appropriate things in from file operation. So we can store data in a CSV format, and then based on that, I was thinking we do, so the idea, make a mock storefront. So we could actually, with what we've learned now, you could actually write a simple program that on the command line lets someone basically inventory the goods that their store has and the prices and stuff. And we could make functions for a user purchasing things and how many and at what cost and things like that. So this is an example. Your feedback is fine here too. This isn't me telling you what we have to do. It's just, I'm just going to come up with stuff and then.
Okay, this would be interesting to try. So
yeah. Okay. We only really need one too. So if you think this, I mean, one of the reasons why I think this is a good idea is because it'll have the feeling of a real application. You'll have data persistency here.
Yeah.
Like you stop running the application and the data will still be there, which is how real world applications work, of course. So in this idea, we're kind of storing data in a CSV file, and we're using that as a substitute a bit for an actual database. Because in the real world, almost no one uses like CSV files to store data. Everyone uses databases, but back in the day, they actually did. So this isn't all that far removed from a real application, is what I'm saying. All right, so let's come up with, I'm not going to do the complete breakdown here, but I want you to tell me some of the steps that we'll need to do in this process here. So like, let's say that we have a different kind of people in this process. So like, let's say that there's store owner and that there's a customer. And let me see, do you think there's anyone else that we need to do here? So when we map on to the real world, and this is especially the case in object-oriented programming, which we'll get to eventually, you want to be thinking of things, as they really are. So what can store owners do in general, right? I think they can, I'll let you give some ideas. But.
Is it what can they do with the app, or what can they do?
Well, yeah, with the app. I mean, but the app is going to be a model representation of reality. So what I was getting at was that they can like place inventory orders, right? So like restock things, right? And they can make sales, right? As in, okay, I should be more specific there. They can like put things
they can record sales, right?
Yep. Although, see, here's the thing is that in our use of this application, sales are really mostly going to come from the customer. And so how I was thinking we have this is that in our event loop in the program here, the very first question we ask them is, are you a customer or are you the store owner? Right. I mean, in a real world application, you wouldn't just take someone's word for being the store owner, right? Oh, okay, Mr. Store Owner, sir. Here's all of our money books. Like, yeah. You don't ask them a yes or no question, but go with it, right? Because authorization that is a very big thing in application development. You'll hear the words authentication and authorization. At a very high level, authentication is who are you, and authorization is what can you do. Right. So store owners can do a certain number of things, right? The who are you bit is, are you a store owner or a customer? And then what can you do is store owners can place inventory orders and customers can, buy things from the store and so on. Okay. So, and you know what? We could actually implement a very simple password-based authentication here as well. So maybe we'll do that. By the way, I'll just keep coming up with things to add to this. So we're not going to make this thing scale super, super hard, but I doubt that you'll finish this in just one day. But
I'm pretty sure I won't.
yeah. Hopefully it'll be a good hands-on, not only a demo just to see where you are coming progress-wise, but also get a feel for wider scope applications. Because many of the practice problems that first off, the ones that I gave you, but also the ones that you've been doing on CodingPad, they're kind of small in scope. That's not
they're very small.
That's where we want to be starting, because you really do solve problems in programming kind of like one little bit at a time. So most of your work as a programmer will be on the small level, like the micro scale, not the macro scale. But every once in a while, you are going to have to take a real big problem and you're going to have to figure out how to break it down. That's part of our job as well. Okay, so we're going to authenticate based on also hash the passwords when we save them. Okay, so a store owner can place inventory orders, restock things, put things on sale. For now, let's just go with this. Okay. Now the customer can place
Place.
like store orders, so customers can buy stuff.
Mhm. So they would make payments and okay. Yeah.
Let's not make things overly complicated now.
Okay.
So what kind of information is relevant for the people here? For now, we're just going to assume that, well, do you want to handle one store or do you want to handle multiple stores? Like, say we could run the books for an entire strip mall here. I think it will be better practice if we do multiple. So these are our two kinds of people, and they can both do certain kinds of things. So what kind of information do we need to track for store owners?
Not identifying information, right? But
no, I'm talking about like, okay, here's what I was getting at. I was getting at, so these are things they can do is they can restock things and they can put things on sale. So they can run sales.
Yeah.
Things that they have. Okay, so they sure do have the name, right? So that's one thing. And they also have like a store balance, right? You know, like like let's call this assets, and we'll call. Do we want to do assets and liabilities, or do you just want one number? You could actually do both, right?
So let's do both. Let's get as close to reality as we can. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to show my ignorance. I don't know precisely how all of the accounting. I know that it's complicated enough that there are people with full degrees that do some of this stuff. You know, presumably when most of these people build a store, they're not going to pay for their building in cash. They're going to take out a loan, right? So most people will be carrying liabilities for some amount of time, but assets is going to be, you know, the money that they currently have on hand. Okay. So, I mean, we could obviously come up with more things, right? But decent start.
That's the basic stuff anyway.
Okay, so customers, we said that customers can buy stuff. Okay. Easy enough. And then things that customers have. They also have names, right? And for now, we'll use name as the primary identifier. I'll show you why that's not such a great idea eventually. You might be able to infer it actually, but what happens when more than one person has the same name? And can you assume that names are unique? Well, not really. You know what? For that reason, let's just do it right the first time. So in database systems, you'll use unique identifiers primarily to track people. Okay. So customers have ID and name, and let's just go with what do we even call it? I was going to say money level, but that sounds very much like a programmer talking about something. Humans in the real world don't go around talking about money level.
Money level.
Yeah. What do humans in the real world have? They have like a wallet balance, right? Or cash. How about we say cash on hand? And let's just, for the simplifying assumption, let's say that everyone pays cash for the particular stores we're doing here. Otherwise, we would have to worry about credit card vendors. And so you see how as soon as you start dealing with actual reality, things get really complicated really fast, right? So we're going to make some assumptions here to simplify. That's pretty normal. Okay, so we will actually do authentication here. I kind of don't think we're going to, well, I mean, I'll see how hard hashing passwords is. I don't actually know how hard some of this is either. So you'll get to see me figure out exactly what we do here too. Now, I am going to leave most of it to you, though. So I will help us organize what work we want to do and stuff, but it kind of loses its value if I do it for you. So, okay. So let's see. We will be, so like at a high level, will our task be? Okay, so we will store. Oh, you know what? The other thing that we have here, we probably want to track information about the stores themselves, right? So stores don't do things, not like store owners and customers, right? But stores do have things, right?
Yes.
Okay, so things they have is that they have, items for sale, right? And that would include prices. What else do stores have?
Of course, we're not going to talk about the people that they have in them. So I don't have an idea.
I think for now that's fine.
Does it make sense to say that they also have store owners? Like,
yeah, that's true. Each store has a store owner. Now, in database systems, one of the reasons why I'm having us do this with things that aren't databases first is you'll get an appreciation for how useful databases are. Maybe at some point we'll come back and refactor to actually use a database, and you'll get a sense for why the world overuses database systems. So you're correct. Stores do have store owners. There's a relationship between these two. What happened? Do that.
It automatically gets something.
It thinks that I want it to make a function, I guess. Okay. ID. Yeah. Wait, deleted name too.
Yeah.
Don't help me. I don't want to be helped. Okay. So this is a decent start. I'm actually kind of curious to see how we implement this relationship with just static data files. It'll be a little bit tricky here, but yeah, we'll be able to do it. Okay, so stores, store owners, customers. All right, so the high level, what will our task be? We'll store information about different store owners, customers. Okay, and store owners their activities. Okay, so other things that occurred to me here, these people that are the people in our application, so they have an ID and name. For now, we're going to store a password here as well. And what I think I'll have us do is use a simple encryption scheme on the password, something that you'd never use in the real world, but just to give you an idea of what encryption is like too, because there's something called hashing in the real world, which means that when you have a database in the real world, you do have to track, who's who and stuff ordinarily as well, right? However, what they aren't going to do is just store it as like a plain text string in the database, because then if someone hacks your database, you see everyone's passwords as plain text. Now, it might shock you, but there have been some pretty high profile hacks, not so long ago. I don't actually want to smear the name of people without having sources in front of me. But I mean, like big corporations, people who should know better, who were actually storing passwords in plain text. And so they got hacked and leaked the information of millions of people because they were storing their passwords in plain text. So it's a big no-no. So we'll go over probably just a simple Caesar shift cipher or something like that, something that's easy to conceptually understand, but still makes the password look like nonsense. So we'll do that, but we'll store the passwords because these people have passwords that they'll need to log into our system with. Okay, so we'll store information about different stores, store owners, customers. We want to let the store owners do their activities through our interface and the customers as well. you know, you have to be validated as one or the other. Do stuff. Okay, so we will update the state of our system. Okay, so I will provide initial state. Okay, so because I have to go pretty soon, I just want to ask if you have any general questions about the idea that we're coming up with here. Anything else that you can think of? So we'll see how long this takes us. It's not going to be super small. I didn't want to give you something super fake because I bet you're kind of tired of super fake stuff. So this will be hopefully something that feels a little bit more real and authentic, but you'll have plenty of practice, plenty of things you'll have to write. And the other thing that I'm going to try to enforce for us is that I'm going to try to make sure that we're using libraries where we can. I think I've emphasized this before, how a big part of programming is trying to use what other people have already done so you don't reinvent the wheel, right? So it would be perfectly possible to like do some of the stuff, especially with CSV files, like reading it in line by line and then manually parsing the lines and stuff. But instead, if I make you use a CSV library tool, of which I'm sure Python has more than one, it will do all that for you.
Okay.
For that reason, I mean, I will have you practice. I mean, I won't do it for you. I will make you, okay, now we want to go find something that does CSV stuff for you. And then I'll have you go Google CSV tools, Python, and you'll go look at a package and import the package, and then we'll see if it works. Because that's 100% how you'd want to do this in the real world. Make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Makes sense.
Okay, so I think this will be not super trivial. Hopefully, the scope here isn't so crazy that we can't do it in several days. You know, I don't want to put an exact limit on this. Part of it, of course, is going to depend on how fast we go when we do this. And like I said, part of the goal here is to try to see where you are. I think you should be able to do this with everything that we've done here. You know, all of the programming concepts and topics that we've covered. Now, I should also be upfront in saying that I think I was pretty clear that the rate at which we've been moving in this learning series is faster than like my programming classes in college were. Now, part of that is because I think the way that they teach things in college isn't like they teach you a lot of things about on a theoretical basis rather than hands-on. It's not like the information, like I gotta be careful because my own opinions are going to come out here, but I don't find it super useful day to day as a programmer. So I'm trying to cut out a bunch of stuff too, which is one of the reasons why we've been able to move so fast. But the other thing that I want to be clear on is that something like this that I'm giving you here would be considered a project, and people in the class would be given a couple weeks maybe or longer to actually work on the project, you know, like on their own time and whatever. Now, we'll go a little bit faster because if you ever get super stuck, I'm not just going to let you flail. But you know, this is something that is of that scope, is what I'm saying. It's not like the little programmers in college get one of these things like every day or something. This would be the sort of magnitude of something that would be a project that took maybe 2 or 3 weeks for them. Or I don't really know. Part of the thing is that my view of these things is now extremely colored by working in a real world production environment. So that I'm kind of far removed from remembering what it's like to sit there and not understand anything. So I have a really terrible time judging, you know, like how hard something really is. So we'll see. I really hope that I didn't make this like horribly difficult and that I'm vastly like underestimating how easy or overestimating how easy this is. But
yes, my feeling is that this will be a bit of a challenge for me, but it's actually what I need. I've been playing around with stuff that's really small. In fact, it's helped me get some of the rhythms of writing functions and stuff like that. But I think I'm about to take on something of this size. It will take me a
and once
I get this done.
As long as you're okay with it. I mean, you saw this didn't take me real long to come up with, right?
No,
and so as long as you're okay with this is probably where we'll move in the future. I mean, I wanted you to have the practice just writing small functions because I mean, you got to start there, right? But I'm not going to keep you there for a long, long time because a lot of the real world stuff is more like what we're doing now. Bigger scope. You have a problem, you have to break it down. And then eventually I might give you a set of requirements and I won't even help you break it down. See, like here we went through and we figured out, you know, the things that people have and what they need to do and things like that. In the real world, at times, you won't even get that. You'll just be given, hey, I want an app that does this. And then you'll have to kind of like drag the information out of them. In fact, that's very normal. And so the problem is that customers don't think like us as programmers. And so they're not going to give you a nicely, well, at least most of them, they're not going to give you like a nice detailed spreadsheet breakdown of all the different roles in their application and what each role can do and what information each role has. Like they don't think like that, right? They think I'm a person and blah, blah, blah. Like they'll be able to answer your questions, but what they won't think to do is format it in a way that nicely translates into code right up front. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
Okay, so, well, at any rate, maybe that's a little bit in the future, interpreting customer requirements, certainly an important part of being a software developer, but I think this will be a good start for us here. So tomorrow, one of the big things, you know, I'll let you give it a whirl. You're welcome to start as much as, well, actually, you know what, the whole point of this is me seeing where you are. So I was going to say you can start when I'm not here, but then I don't know how long you spend on it. Let's just hold off until tomorrow. You're welcome to keep working on the other practice problems that we've been doing. Although I bet you're pretty thoroughly sick of many of them at this point. So I would say just hold off until tomorrow. We'll go as long as we need to on this for this example. Now let's cross our fingers and hope that you pick it up pretty quick. That'd be pretty awesome if it only ended up taking us a few days here. Yeah. I mean, I actually don't know, like this one would not be like 10 minutes for me. Okay. I feel like if we meet for about an hour a day, this one might take me a couple of days just because it's not so small. Right. And so, you know, given that, I don't think you should feel bad if it takes you, you know, like some multiple of that because, you know, I've been doing this a lot longer. Right. So it's to be expected. All right, well, we'll pick up tomorrow. We'll see where we are. Like I said, I apologize if today's a little short, but I do have to go now. So, and then with that, starting from tomorrow, we'll get an idea of exactly where you are, right? And that's the whole point of this exercise is to see if we're ready to move on or if we should do a couple more practice situations to get more experience.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay, great. Well, we'll cut there for today and we'll pick back up tomorrow.